Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our hosts, Sri Rajgopalan, Peter V.S. Bond, and Brian Gildenberg explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys. Hello and welcome to the CPG Guys podcast, where we explore the omni-channel digital journey of brands and retailers. I'm your co-host, PVSB, and we're recording today's episode from fabulous Viva Las Vegas. Wow. We're in Nevada, where the CPG Guys will be attending this year's Shop Talk conference.
Indeed.
Oh my God. And as per usual, I am joined in this episode today by the shiny new member of this podcast trio we call the CPG Guys. He's the founder and CEO of Confluencer Commerce and the foremost authority in retail shopper marketing. Please join me in welcoming Brian Gildenberg. Brian, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Peter. How are you doing today?
I am dandy. Before we get on with our show, can you remind our audience Confluencer Commerce? What's that all about?
Confluencer Commerce is a little enterprise that exists to help brands, retailers, and service providers navigate the confluencer convergence of three things, which is retail, media, and content. So as you can imagine, we spend a fair amount of time in our world talking about retail media, and a fair amount of time trying to figure out how these things are all changing as the world evolves.
Well, that is great, because I think our topic today does involve retail media.
That was a little bit of a teaser there.
I know, that was good. That was subtle. I'm not so subtle. But before we get to our guest, I want to remind our audience to visit cpgguys.com. You can find a link to our podcast on all the major and the minor podcast platforms. Indeed. And if you're not already doing so, please go to LinkedIn, either via the app or on the website on a desktop. And when you get there, in the search box, enter CPG Guys, get to our pages, click the blue follow button. That way you can stay privy to all the content we create. We create content, as you like to say, not one, not two, but 7 days a week. And it's all free, so please do follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to also subscribe to our other podcast platforms, the FMCG Guys over in Europe, our friends Jennifer and Reese who do the CPG Scoop, and of course, the newest podcast to our collective, CPG Guys Fast Forward.
Coming soon.
I know, can't wait. Yep. And Brian's going to be the host of that particular platform. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that we are so incredibly proud to be part of Next Up, formerly Network of Executive Women. We are formal sponsors. And this is a group whose mission is to advance all women in business and to promote gender equality in the workplace. And of course, as formal members, we have 50 memberships to give away to women entrepreneurs, women who work at companies that may not be part of Next Up. It's a great opportunity to avail yourself of the resources that Next Up has produced from an education networking perspective. If you think this might be something of interest to you, just drop us an email at contact@cpgguys.com. We'd love to talk to you about it. But we're really excited about that. So this is our guest's second appearance on the podcast, though it's his first with his new organization. He's an impresario in the field of retail media, our favorite topic on the CPG Guys podcast. I think you would agree to that, Brian?
I would certainly agree.
That's awesome. His experience in omni-channel commerce includes over a decade at Target in the Randall Media Network, and more recently at Nielsen IQ as head of Omni Consumer and Retail Performance. Earlier this year, he joined the Albertsons Media Collective as vice president in what I would describe as getting the band back together. We'll explore that, and we'll let him tell us what that means. But please join Brian and me in welcoming back to the podcast our friend Harvey Ma. Hey, Harvey, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing? How was your day or your nights? What day or night is it?
Shop Talk Day 2.
Shop Talk. Shop Talk Day 2. E-commerce and retail media people under siege.
I pretty much plan on 4 hours of sleep a night. If I get any more than that, it's completely fortuitous, but that's really all I expect.
That's 3 hours more than I think most people may be listening to the podcast.
Yeah, we're too old to go out and do these parties late into the night. I mean, I think we went up and did the gratuitous photo at the Skyfall Lounge at the top of the Delano, and then we're like, okay, yeah, it's time to go to bed.
Yeah,
we're good. So we did do some late night podcasting with the Fresh Four last night. So
there you
go.
Kind
of fun.
Yeah, well, I did not, but I'm not one of the Fresh Four.
You're not fresh enough.
Yeah, I'm clearly not. So I'll work on that. So.
It's really great to have you with us today, Harvey. Welcome back to the podcast. Before we get to the questions we prepared for you, why don't you refresh our audience memory on what is Albertsons Media Collective?
What a fantastic question. Well, what is it? I mean, we are the retail media network that supports the second largest grocery chain in the United States. So think about the scale, the frequency, the traffic. If you talk about all the things that make a retail media network great, Albertsons Media Collective is really just that. It's a way for brands to reach unique customers and, more importantly, provide a transparent journey from front to back on what they're actually purchasing.
So, Harvey, we're going to put for our audience in the digital liner notes of this episode, since like 90% of you plus listen on a mobile device, just switch over to the liner notes. You're going to find a hyperlink to Harvey's LinkedIn profile, to Albertsons Media Collective LinkedIn page, and to Albertsons Media Collective's website. And you can learn more about our guest and the company he's joined. So I'll kick off with our first question. Harvey, I ran into you at CES back in January here in Las Vegas. And I noticed, you were sitting at a table at the area hotel chatting with some of your old Roundel colleagues, Claire Wyatt and Evan Avorka, both of whom have been on this podcast before. I'm like, oh, they're all friendly and chummy, but they used to work together. That's really interesting. Now they're your colleagues once again. So I guess, why don't you walk us through how this family reunion came about and really what appealed to you about jumping over to Albertsons Media Collective?
You want to know what's funny? We talk a lot about how small this industry is.
Oh, God, yes.
Right? Retail small, retail media being smaller. You might not believe me. When I saw you at the Aria, I was actually pitching. I was sharing insights of a retail media product that Nielsen IQ had actually developed. And I wanted to get Claire and Evan's opinion on that.
Yeah.
As all good friends do, topics start to divulge into other topics. And there was literally, to your point, Peter, what would happen if we got the band back together again? Because I asked them the question. We think this platform that we've built at Nielsen IQ helps to solve for X, Y, and Z. And I said, what are you seeing in the industry? And they said, boy, we're seeing these. What would that look like if we got the band back together again? Well, fast forward, we're talking.
It was like weeks at most.
Maybe days later.
Yeah.
And it's a small world. Vivek has been a career mentor of mine. I've worked for Christy in the past. Things all kind of came to fruition. And then there's some really exciting things happening here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that getting the band back together was a really cool thing, because we all felt like there was something we left on the table.
Oh, when we talked to Claire on the podcast, I said, what made you do this? She says, listen, when Christy calls, you answer the phone.
That's exactly it. But then the other topic was, when I talked to Christy about it, was, can we capture lightning in a bottle twice again? Because Roundel was a rocket ship, and we loved our experience there.
Yeah.
But there's also things that I think in retrospect we might have done a little bit differently. And boy, to have a chance to do that again, how would you turn that opportunity down? And that's kind of where all things have the puzzle pieces all fallen into place.
That's super cool. And let's talk a little bit more about the rocket ship. So retail media had like a really impressive year in 2022, and you've been involved in this for a while. What do you think were some of the key reasons and some of the highlights that were driving such tremendous growth in the retail media space from your perspective?
I think it's really two big things that drove growth. One is this need for media dollars to be accounted for. And I think any media buyer would tell you that retail media's popularity is that I can actually now see where my dollars are going. That is fueling it. But I also want to talk about the dark side of retail media. And I want to address it because we're all about transparency at the collective. The dark side. There is still a perception of this very heavy tax. And I will tell you that it's still fueling the growth. And I think any brand listening today would probably, I'm guessing they're in their cars right now nodding and saying, my goodness, I feel like there is this massive burden of this forced spend. And so while I think it's great from a numbers perspective, there is accountability on behalf of the retail media and the retailers to make sure manufacturers don't feel like it's a tax. But again, I think that is the dark side, is the growth is being fueled by transparency or more transparency, but also this necessity of I've got to continue this partnership. So, you've got kind of like that balancing act between the two things.
Disclaimer, those of you driving, don't nod so vigorously that you lose sight of the road.
But are you seeing the same thing? Because part of me is that's
I'm nodding so vigorously, I'm losing sight of the road. I'm not even in a car.
Because part of it is we've got to figure out how to not make this feel like a tax, because if we want to really build this the right way, so like I said, if I could do this all over again, this is what we're doing all over again. How does it feel like a partnership?
It's not just from the retail media side, right? There are a lot of solutions that retailers offer, data being one of them, customer data access, and that becomes yet another tax. And before some time, you have to come to the conclusion that and we had on recently Brett Thurston, who is the director of e-commerce at Hostess Brands, and he said, I'm okay with the asks. I just want to say that, okay, I'm willing to do that, but here's what I need in return. So this concept of a collaboration is what will get people beyond thinking of this as a tax. So I don't think there's I think there's some reticence when it's an ask without an opportunity to in turn say, here's what if you want this, this is what I need in return.
Well, yeah. Like if you think about the American Revolution, right? It wasn't about taxation, no taxation. It was taxation without representation, right? And I think that's what, to re-paraphrase that, I think what brands are looking for, I'll pay the tax, but I need representation and performance back.
That's right.
I also think too that one of the steps that, and y'all Roundel, I think, actually really led the way on this in constructing a face that was legitimately aimed at the media side of the world. You're just throwing yourself into an ecosystem which is incredibly bid and cost driven. And that if you don't provide that performance, you're going to lose the ability to charge that tax over time because media people aren't going to pay it. Because as you well know, the part of the company that's responsible for the tax, the commercial side, doesn't get to make all the choices about how the media dollars get spent.
Yeah, that's right.
So the media is going to need to perform because you're trying to get access to the media budget, and the media budget is governed by its own performance requirements. So I think the tax is interesting as a way to get it off the ground, perhaps, but long term, that constituency will just opt out of it anyway. So it can't work that way a little longer.
It's just not that clean,
right?
And that's where we all need to get to. Is we're at the point now where retail media networks want to be thought of as mature media companies,
right?
And the ones that are really trying hard to prove that. To your point, exactly what you talked about. The others are saying, hold on, squirrel, look over here.
Yeah.
This is actually we're getting you more store space. You're getting a better partnership fee. You are now elevated as a relationship builder. Like that. That's where it gets really slippery.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's an obligation for us. And it's what we're so passionate about. It's why I'm so passionate about coming here to rebuild this. This is not how we want to build a relationship.
That's what a politician would call a revenue enhancement instead of a tax, right?
That's right.
It's a tax with a different name.
Look over here.
Yeah. Squirrel tax.
Squirrel tax.
I may start referring to some of these retail media networks as squirrel taxes. I like that.
Harvey, let's talk about technology trends that are emerging in the industry. If I were to use a DeLorean or a hot tub to go back in time 1 year from today, we'd be talking about the metaverse. We'd be talking about things like NFTs, right? Today, we're talking about
crypto, man. It's all crypto.
Oh, crypto, yeah. Today, we're talking about Chat GPT and AI. So I guess the question I have is, how do you think about all of this playing into the work of brands and retailers connecting to shoppers in meaningful ways? And how does that play a part in Albertsons Media Collective thinking about where it's taking this offering, to your point, to make it more meaningful to brands looking to engage with Albertsons shoppers?
Well, outside of my personal fascination with what AI is going to do with our society, wouldn't surprise you to know that we've been dabbling in AI-enhanced technology ourselves. I know for a fact that we were playing around with DALL-E to create a logo just based on kind of a text-enhanced or text-driven, and it was pretty slick. I will tell you that I can already see the evolution now with optimization and automation being the two things I'm seeing AI driving from a retail media perspective. Optimization would be things like a better, more optimized audience. How do I target more consistently on the buying side? Can I use an AI-powered engine to effectively hone in my media buys in a much more sophisticated and much more fine-tuned way? Automation is, look, we built these retail media networks with lots of what we call white glove treatment, meaning before we actually had programmatic hands-on keyboard tools, we were doing everything front to back, very manually intensive. Automation is the way for us to level that playing field and drive costs down. So I think on both sides, we'll see those two themes emerge. So I'm selfishly looking at a lot of these AI companies on the shop talk floor.
Can I ask a follow-up on that? Because it's one of the things I think is that also has some interesting potential. And I think this is particularly acute for retail media networks because of the loyalty card data that you're working off of. You've got the ability to do really granular audience profiles that are really behavioral based. And then you go try to sell that as a media proposition, and media buyers have no idea what to do with it because they can't vary the creative enough to be able to match the degree of segmentation that the average retail media network audience can provide. Do you see a role for AI in that, in terms of being able to help brands deliver better and more personalized or targeted creative to match your ability to get granular and personalized with your data and your audience segmentation.
I mean, absolutely. But here's the shtick, though.
Yep.
I get it. The retailer loyalty data. I've always said, though, it's as important to understand who your customer is outside of your four walls too.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. That's where AI can really help. So think about if you're a retailer now with a really well-equipped AI engine,
right.
I should be able to profile a non-loyal customer as well as I can profile a loyal customer.
Yes.
That's the beauty of this technology now.
Right. Yeah.
Which now it's a level playing field for everybody, which I think is fantastic.
Cool, and that actually leads really nicely into my next question, and one of my favorite topics, which are clean rooms. But it's really about the amplification of your own first party data, right? And how that first party data can work. How do you see clean rooms evolving within your ecosystem, and how do you see other first-party data owners or leasers being able to marry their first-party data with yours and how is that playing into the work you're doing at Albertsons Media Collective?
I love you bringing up the clean room, because that is like the buzzword of, I'd say, 2022 for retail media networks. And I think it's like one of those terms where
I went back in the DeLorean. I just didn't come back.
I like the hot tub. I'm a hot tub guy.
Okay.
So hot tub time machine.
All right.
Yeah.
I feel like
we are culturally relevant here.
We talked about Star Wars last time, so I love it.
I know. That's
I
great.
love it.
We're now at least talking about a movie that was made in the 90s. Very exciting.
Easy now.
We're in a hot tub time machine going back to
I think we are.
Anyway.
But here's my real answers. I feel like the term clean room is being thrown around by folks that want to try to sound smart, that don't really understand what the purpose of a clean room is.
Hashtag Chat GPT.
But here's our philosophy, though, is I think there are clean rooms out there doing it the right way, which is an agnostic, kind of brand positive way to mingle data together in what's called a clean room and extract that for mutual value.
Right.
While respecting the privacy of each individual's assets.
Correct.
Yeah.
There are other clean rooms that have found this to be a unique monetization engine, and they're what I call branded clean rooms that defy the purpose of what a clean room was there to be done in the first place.
Thank you, because it's never made any sense to me. People are like, who's going to own the clean room? It's like, that's not the point.
That's not the point. That's not what the clean room is about.
At the middle school dance, when the boys are on one side and the girls on the other, and they get together and they dance for a discrete moment in time, no one cares who owns the gym. That's not the issue, right?
That's exactly it. That's why I love the question. So to answer your question on what the collective is doing about it, we are a clean room agnostic environment, meaning we truly will have a conversation with any client who has an existing clean room who wants us to explore one that is meant for positivity. All the things we talked about in terms of mutual benefit.
Okay.
Wouldn't surprise you that we already have live now our own version of an audience commingled clean room environment that you can actually go to market with today.
Cool.
But we're still assessing. I think there's also the level of sophistication that brands and clients actually think they're at. And I would say that outside of a very smart few, some are way beyond their skis in terms of even needing to use a clean room environment to start commingling data.
Yeah, it does feel like a solution that's in search of tomorrow's problem rather than today sometimes,
There's use cases, though, and I believe in that. Let's make sure those use cases in the clean room are altruistic, though.
I want to remind our audience that we're speaking with Harvey Ma.
Harvey would like us not to remind the audience.
Harvey wants to disassociate himself, but we are speaking with Harvey Ma, Vice President at Albertsons Media Collective. All right, so Harvey, retail media is a very broad description for quite a number of tools that are used to really connect brands and shoppers. Would you remind us, what are some of the latest solutions that Albertsons Media Collective are making available to brands on-site, off-site, and increasingly in-store?
Yeah, I would say from a product suite portfolio standpoint, we've got everything out there that a client is looking for from an on-site, off-site, social platform delivery perspective. Some of the cool things I could mention, Pinterest closed loop reporting is available now, which I know is a hot topic. On the horizon, from a roadmap perspective, we know CTV is a really hot topic. We have been in very advanced conversations on that. I think this whole social chatter and how we leverage that for media intensive purposes and also full funnel attribution is an interesting one. I'd also say shoppable video, which I know is a hot topic across retail media also.
Sure.
So all of those things are available in multiple phases today, but I would say, come talk to us. We have a fairly robust product roadmap, we also want to make sure, like I talked about with clean rooms, that the level of sophistication matches the KPI you're going for. So I just want to remind the audience that we can do just about everything from a product portfolio perspective. But if you're going to talk to me about driving awareness, but you're using sponsored search as your first product, like, let's just make sure we level set expectations. Yeah. And that would be like my one ask. Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question.
Well, and leads to my next question, which is that how would you counsel brands that are trying to come to the Albertsons Media Collective, and somebody planted the buzzword full funnel in their head and they're starting to talk to you about full funnel? How would you counsel them on how to work with the Albertsons Media Collective best to do more than just sponsored search or whatever it is, and to really think that,
or even starting with optimizing that and then building out with your other capabilities.
Right.
I would start with a very well thought through media brief that goes through what that strategy looks like end to end to start with. And what I mean by that is, don't come with a brief that says performance or ROAS. Now, I get that. That could be, by the way, if that is your objective, let's then talk about the 2 or 3 really effective lower funnel tactics that help achieve that objective. But I think what's crazy about this is that this is where things go. We will have an aspirational brand manager that talks about solving all of the world's problems, and we'll bring them these really innovative ideas like CTV closed loop iROAS measurement. And then, surprise, surprise, when the iROAS doesn't come back, they're like, well, what the heck just happened? Well, that wasn't actually part of the original objective in the first place. So I think this is just where, let's just have that open dialogue, be honest with each other. But I think it's important to document what your KPIs really are. And it's our obligation as a collective to then show you what have we done to actually solve for those objectives. Then from there on out, I think it starts a really robust conversation.
And I think where you build upon that is when you think about what is the objective you're trying to achieve. And just because we can measure it with a particular measurement doesn't mean it's the right one. So if you're trying to drive innovation, talking about iROAS when you're launching a new product is not necessarily what your objective is. It's to create awareness. It's to create impressions. And so don't focus on that. Understand what your outcome is and then assign the right measurements to that type of an outcome you're trying to seek.
This is always what makes me laugh. iROAS is my KPI. But their target audience is our most loyal VIP customers. Like how do you expect to drive substantial incrementality if you're targeting your core value prop, everyday loyal consumers? Those things just don't match up. Now, I can see complementary audiences and those kind of things. But again, I think to your question, it's let's just have that honest dialogue on what your expectations are. I think you'll find, if nothing else, transparency is one of the things that is one of our key philosophies.
Well, and I think there's two builds on that. One, for anybody that wants the most coherent conversation about iROAS in history, and this had nothing to do with us because it was Claire. Just go back to the episode with Claire Wyatt. That was the CPG guys episode where Claire explains iROAS more clearly than any human being has ever explained anything.
Can we call her the godmother of iROAS?
Why not? Let's do it. Let's put it here first.
Claire, don't say I never did anything for you now.
By the way, now forever when I run into her at trade shows, she's the godmother.
She's a godmother. Yeah, and then the other thing is just the retail media ecosystem is filled with the nightmare of Robert McNamara, who said this, which is that it's critical to measure what's important. It's foolish to make important that which can be measured. And I think that there is so much of this conversation that has come out of the Amazon ecosystem, the performance marketing world, that's just being dropped into an ecosystem where it just doesn't make as much sense. And people are trying to fit the various and sundry square pegs into the round hole of ROAS or iROAS. And it just doesn't work all the time.
Yeah. So Harvey, this is your big opportunity. We've come to that moment in the podcast. This is your chance to tell our audience, really summarize what, in your opinion, makes Albertsons Media Collective the premier partner in their media investment strategy. What are those key points that just say, this is why you want to be working with Albertsons Media Collective?
Well, I would hope that starting from the first conversation we have, the dialogue feels different. It feels very different. Yeah. I would hope that what we talked about earlier today, it doesn't feel like the tax. Yeah. That would be my first.
Yeah.
And if that's not happening, I would say you've got to call me out on that. I think we have a very robust strategy to create what we call a dramatically different view of what partnership should look like between a retail media network and a manufacturer. So that's the first. I would say the second is this pillar of transparency. we mean what we say from a transparency perspective, that we will be, if nothing else, brutally honest. And what that means is that if our results aren't great, we're going to show you those results, because I still believe that there's value in having a 1 cent ROAS if we can show you the analytics and insights that drove you that 1 cent ROAS, because it'll make you a smarter marketer. Mm-hmm. I think third, too, is we are very much on this hunt for standardization, because we realize that it's very difficult when everyone is operating their own methodology within their own best interests. And so I think you're going to see Christy on a lot of different bodies of work preaching kind of what media standardization looks like in this industry, because we're all measuring things through a different yardstick right now, and it's just not fair.
And we're hearing people on the other side of the table, your suppliers, are asking for it. They are crying out for it. This is too much. It's overwhelming. How are we together going to create a system of standardization that frankly allows us to be assured that the media investments we're making are giving us the returns we want, so we can shift our budgets efficiently?
That's right.
Yeah, and there's just going to be a resistance to budgets moving as freely as they should into this ecosystem if it's hard. Media buyers just don't enjoy hard. That's not their. That's not the thing that gets them up every morning and motivated.
That's right. That was easy button on their now.
Yeah.
That makes them happy.
Yeah. Yes.
But on that vein of easy button, I do think one of the things that is hard, and it's also hard for us as a retail media network that needs scale. Mm-hmm. This Albertsons mantra of locally great, nationally strong, creating a model that from a customer perspective is really awesome, locally sourced assortments, right?
Right.
Let's not forget about the power of not just syndication across national scaled audiences.
Yeah.
I think that creates a lot of complexity, but really if done right, boy, we keep talking about one-to-one conversations with customers being the holy grail of marketing. Let's actually do that then. Yeah. So I would say, again, hopefully the conversation feels different, but we'll prove it to you through, I think, our day-to-day actions. That's really the most important thing I want to stress.
Well, and this would be a topic for a whole different podcast. So come back and talk about that. But how a retail media network can help brands amplify more targeted strategies, not just more targeted advertising, but regional strategies. Because so many opportunities right now in the U.S. are in more granular ideas, whether they are segments of the population or particular geographic areas. And I just don't think the media industry's caught up to where the growth is yet. And media teams still, by and large, they're trying to buy national cheap reach as easily as they can sometimes. And there's so much more opportunity within the retail media network to do cool stuff there. So,
and I will say too that as you look at our product strategy evolve, as you look at kind of our go-to-market evolve, I think you're going to see a very different type of retail media culture that we're trying to create. Mm-hmm. Again, part of the first question of why we're getting the band back together again, a lot of us have done this for a long time. And, this is a really fun industry to be in, but we've also seen a lot of things that need to be changed. Mm-hmm. And so I think when you start looking at, and we're not quite ready to share some of those things yet, but when you look at the philosophy of what we're trying to build, we're not building a Me Too. In fact, there are many products on what we call the parity roadmap that we're not interested in chasing. There are others that we think need to be created, and we'll be excited to share some of those with you in the hopefully nearest future.
This is what Christy called the late mover advantage.
It really is.
Yeah. That's you get a chance to not do some of the things that have been done before. So last question, I think. You talked a little bit about some of the things you could talk about on the roadmap. If you could tell us the things you're not allowed to talk about, that would be super.
We'd like that.
And that would be really good.
I think we see.
You got to pay the tax for that. I'm so kidding. Oh my gosh, I just went against my own mind.
Elizabeth is just shaking her head. Why did I agree to this?
This is why they don't let me speak. This is I'm a constant threat.
I got a couple of bucks in my wallet. But in all seriousness, you also did walk through some of the interesting things on the roadmap, whether it was the Pinterest partnership or some of the other things. But are there what's the sense of what are the next 12 months?
What excites you? What's really
what's really exciting apart from the things you've already sort of talked about?
I'm going to break it apart into I think I'd call it our 5 focus areas right now.
Okay.
Channel expansion is one.
Yep.
And that means just bringing retail media into increased channels. CTV being just one.
Yep.
I would say audience enhancement being our second. And when I say about audience, Peter, we talked about this before. Let's not just use demo as a way to target audiences. I think when you start to see other actions you're trying to bring to bear, that's exciting for us. We're working on that diligently. I would call expanded measurement or standardized measurement, a third. We always want to figure out how to improve our on-site. So there's an incredible value in on-site Albertsons inventory. So expanding that would be the fourth. And then I'm going to call the last one our moonshot ideas. Those are the ones that I'm not going to share with you quite yet, but we want to talk to you soon about some of these. And these are what I think are going to be industry retail media game changers, things that we think no one else is doing that we will have the right to win in because there's just things that we've seen. That
the one area where we're really interested in, we've started to have some conversations with service providers in particular, is just you have this, not only do you have this huge digital audience online, but your physical stores, you have an audience that's probably about 70% larger than that. And thinking about how you can merge the capabilities of digital with the in-store experience, that is something that we know you're going to come back on a future episode. And
see, Peter, he's fishing. He's fishing for
I'm trying.
So
is he going to bite though?
No, here's the thing. Let's bite. I'm taking
Give him a dollar. Give him a dollar.
I'm going to bite because you know why?
Yeah.
I just had breakfast with Andrew Lipsman, who I know you've been talking to.
Andrew? Who is he?
I don't
know.
He's kind of been touting this in-store retail media.
Did he write a paper on this?
You know what? I think so. Yes. It might be something he's kind of passionate about.
Yeah.
Guess who else is passionate about that?
Right.
We are. And so I'm going to leave a little bit of a teaser there. But yes, we do agree.
Tune in next time.
In-store experience is that frontier that retail media is shifting towards. So lots of very exciting news to come.
That's great.
Awesome.
I want to remind our audience to visit cpgguys.com where you can find all of our content. It's all free. And if you think your company has some thought leadership that you can contribute to this conversation, drop us an email, contact@cpgguys.com, and maybe you can appear on a future episode of the CPG Guys. And while you're on our site, on the navigation bar at the top, there's a section on ratings and reviews. Drop us a review. Tell us, if you think we're being a little too silly on here, you can tell us that. We may not pay attention to it, but in all seriousness, we want to hear your feedback on what you think about what we're doing, who areas you want us to explore, guests you think we should have on the podcast, because we want to be very responsive to what our audience is looking to learn more about. We're an educational podcast. We try to make it a little entertaining in the process. And I think that's why we probably have our 20,000 plus followers on LinkedIn. And we are very grateful that you choose us to provide you with both education and a little bit of entertainment in the process. Harvey, thank you so much. Congratulations on joining Albertsons Media Collective. We are looking forward to future conversations. You know, you're always welcome back here on the CPG Guys podcast.
I love it.
He'll never be allowed back.
I love talking to you guys. Back. Yeah, seriously. And let's not do Las Vegas. How about that next time? Let's try to change.
I hear there's a new venue for Shop Talk. It's now called Chicago in October. What's going on there? Oh my goodness.
Maybe we'll come back to Vegas.
Shop Talk 2.
Shop Talk 2. There you go.
Faster and more furious.
So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Always fun.
Brian, as always, thank you for joining me on this journey. So glad to have you on the flagship podcast and looking so forward to your soon to be released CPG Guys Fast Forward podcast.
Indeed.
What were some of the most salient points that you drew out of our conversation with Harvey today?
Well, we got we spent a lot of time on topics we won't revisit, but I think there are a few. I mean, I think Harvey did a great job of recapping the 5 pillars of what Albertsons is trying to do. And I think that was the core, but I think there were sort of 3 big ideas that came out as we went through this. Number one, I think the overall attitude of the Albertsons Media Collective, which is come to us with your ideas, reach out. We are willing and ready to engage in a different type of conversation rather than just a very granular and basic, what's our ROAS kind of thing, and really expanding the conversation a little bit to really forge sort of a different type of partnership. I thought that was really critical. I think the second piece, and one of the really cool parts of the conversation was that conversation around what are you trying to do? And then let's figure out what the right way is to do what you're trying to do, rather than what do you think you're trying to do, and what are the 2 or 3 very basic metrics that you're using to do something else? And how do we bring that together? And I think that notion of the sort of an integrated plan, I think was super critical. That's probably 4. I think the third was there was a lot of really good conversation in there around what the data could look like, and whether that's in clean rooms or just in general, the ability to serve data up to manufacturers in a really useful way. And I do think the last piece, the teaser about the future of
we're gonna keep on them about that.
The future,
we're not letting them get away.
The future of many things.
I would expect nothing less,
particularly in store. But I really did love some of the conversation around, being able to close the loop on platforms like Pinterest, which is, just really being able to provide useful tools, learning from the experiences that you all have had at some other retail media networks that will remain nameless, but the ability to really build something that addresses the needs of brands and really takes advantage, I think, of the really core capabilities of the retail media ecosystem and allows brands to enhance both their brand love and their sales. So I thought that's great.
Thank you for the summary, Brian.
Sure.
And to our audience, we appreciate you joining us in this conversation. We look forward to you joining us on the next episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Goodbye.
Sure. Bye.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.